Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack something honestly pretty fascinating. How everyday growing pains and those shared, kind of embarrassing frustrations actually transform into highly successful creative IP. Specifically, we're zooming in on what I like to call the school system rant hook. It's all about how creators take the absolute most mundane, annoying parts of growing up and spin them into absolute entertainment gold.
So, let me ask you, ever just wanted to go on a massive rant about the school system? Because, well, it's a universal frustration, right? Literally, almost everyone has experienced it at some point. From super unfair rules to those mortifying moments in the cafeteria, we've all been there. And what's brilliant here is that creators have realized this specific flavor of angst isn't just something to vent about to your friends. Actually, it's a deeply connective storytelling tool.
To kick things off, let's look at a prime example from James Rallison's animated TV show, Oddballs. Picture this, faking an entire oral report about a secret treasure just to avoid actually doing your homework. In an episode literally titled Moral Report, James expresses his complete and utter disdain for oral reports. So what does he do? For a class assignment, he makes up a completely fake history about his town's secret treasure, and he uses a maze on the back of a cereal box as his reference. I mean, it's ridiculous, but that underlying desire to just avoid homework, totally relatable. It taps right into that universal kid urge to take the easy way out.
Which brings us to Section 1, the school frustration hook, a universal starting point. Using a classic school frustration is just the perfect way to immediately capture an audience. When you start with a feeling everyone instantly recognizes, you really don't have to work as hard to get them on your side. Take another Oddballs episode, The Class Act. The whole premise, James is absolutely revolted by the hypocrisy of teachers eating the snacks they confiscated from students. So naturally, he organizes a heist with his friend Max to steal them back. Of course, things go sideways. He ends up wearing a fake mustache made out of chocolate milk and gets mistaken for a substitute teacher. It takes a tiny real-world annoyance, teachers taking your snacks, and just cranks it all the way up into high-stakes comedy. Moving on to Section 2, animating everyday oddities, the business behind the gripes. Because here's the thing. These seemingly trivial complaints actually serve as the foundation for massive business empires. We aren't just talking about kids complaining in the hallway. We are talking about a highly lucrative creative strategy. 20 million, that is how many subscribers James Rallison's main YouTube channel, The Odd Ones Out, boasts. He built this massive audience by taking his shy, outsider perspective, posting comics and animations about his so-called odd behavior, and just putting it out there for the world to see.
And that audience, well, it translates into this next massive figure. Over 4.3 billion total views. That's billion with a B. From his very first video, which was just about a book he made in elementary school with horrible spelling, it proves that leaning into everyday oddities is a proven, massively successful strategy. The demand for this type of relatable content is just staggering.
The real genius of this strategy is that his videos are all about his odd behavior, finding their way right into the hearts of fans who also feel like the odd one out. Feeling like an outsider, someone who didn't party in high school or maybe didn't win football games like an older sibling, isn't a weakness here. It's actually a badge of honor that millions of people are eagerly buying into.
You can trace the path of this multimedia empire right back to 2012. It started with a simple webcomic uploaded to Tumblr and iFunny. Then, inspired by early creators, he launches the Odd Ones Out YouTube channel in 2014. Fast forward through years of steady growth, even sprinkling pools full of sprinkles for subscriber milestones, and by 2022, he transitions into a major television series. It's honestly a masterclass in audience building.
All right, Section 3, scaling up to television. How to bring the rant to the big screen.
Scaling a 10-minute YouTube rant into a 22-minute scripted adventure means taking specific school day frustrations and blowing them up into full-blown narratives, like parodying Home Alone, but the traps are based on school subjects like math and PE to fight off a finicky security salesman, all just because James woke up late for school, or organizing that snack heist, or faking an oral report that accidentally sparks a town-wide treasure hunt. These TV episodes take those mundane annoyances and creatively escalate them into hilarious, high-stakes adventures. But creating a hit show takes way more than just a good rant. As James Rallison notes,
if you see like One Punch Man doing a big punch, you can be like, oh, I want to make my character look like that. And then you would reference that punch.
You see, you have to back up the relatable hook with actual visual skill. While the concepts are born from everyday frustrations, the execution requires actively studying other successful media and practicing dynamic animation techniques using really strong references.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4,
The graphic novel equivalent. Let's look at a cross-medium strategy.
Because this phenomenon definitely isn't restricted to animation. Jason Platt's series, Middle School Misadventures, is a flawless example of translating that fast-talking, daydreaming middle school angst into a highly successful graphic novel. In Operation Hat Heist, we follow an everyday hero named Newell, who manages to succeed despite his clumsiness and his insecurities, with a little help from his friends, of course.
The stakes for Newell are universally terrifying for any middle schooler. His perfectly comfortable life is completely turned upside down when the school dance is announced, which, by the way, he refers to as a fart. And then he discovers his dad is dating his math teacher, which is a double fart. Seriously? Can you imagine your dad dating your math teacher right before the big school dance? It's a total disaster waiting to happen.
And this perfectly captures the quiet, building anxiety of a kid just trying to keep their life from changing too much. Kicking a can in relatable suburban frustration, an arm in a sling because a friend jinxed him and he stubbed his toe. It just nails that exact feeling of insecurity, the suspense, and that sweet relief of recognition that middle schoolers absolutely crave.
When you put them side by side, the animated The Odd Ones Out rants about oral reports, confiscated snacks, and feeling odd. Meanwhile, the graphic novel Middle School Misadventures laments school dances, clumsy mistakes, and embarrassing parents. The delivery method changes, sure, but the core DNA is exactly the same, weaponizing relatable clumsiness and institutional grievances. The psychological hook remains completely identical.
And finally, Section 5, the power of relatability. Let's connect the dots.
So why does this relatability strategy so heavily dominate the entertainment landscape? Well, it's incredibly versatile. We see James Rallison targeting unfair teachers and homework on TV, and Jason Platt taking on school dances in books. But it can be used for way more than just comedy. Just look at author Wanda Taylor, who tackles ignorant comments and systemic wrongs in her book, The Grover School Pledge.
In that story, students actually team up against the teacher's ignorant comments to right a systemic school wrong. Arlene and her friends group up after their teacher, Mr. Matthews, asks a totally ignorant question about another student's headscarf. This really shows how sometimes the school system rant evolves way beyond a punchline and turns into powerful, real-world advocacy. All those thoughtless comments suddenly smolder under the light of truth, inspiring the students to take collective action.
So, the crucial point I want to leave you with today is this. What everyday annoyance could you turn into your own creative goldmine? The next time you find yourself complaining about a mundane system, an unfair rule, or a super awkward encounter, pay close attention. Instead of just sighing and moving on, you might just be sitting on your very first $1 million IP. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep observing those everyday oddities.